start right away. And I'll share my screen with my imagined pain points that you guys may be going through, right? So everybody here, we're talking about children 5 to 10 years old. A lot of these children are in kindergarten to 5th grade. So let's talk about the very, very first pain point that all of you felt incredibly bad if you hadn't been doing it before, which is routine. My child won't sit in front of the computer, Lina. My child is saying, no, I don't want to do that. My child is having a really hard time because my schedule at work is so chaotic. My, oh my, what do I do? All right, so when we think about routine in this age group, once they have started school, always start with the time that they are doing their virtual schooling, or for some of you that have chosen to go back to school, and they're in-person schooling, right? So after you think of that and you write it down, then you think about meals. There's a breakfast, there's a dinner. For those kids that are still doing school from home, there's a lunch. So plug those in. Okay, lunchtime is an amazing lunch, breakfast, dinner is an amazing opportunity to deal with what all of you have been worried about as it pertains. Here's another pain point. I'm pointing at it. I hope that you can see my little mouse, which is this, Lina, are they gonna get delayed socially? Oh my God, I'm so worried about my child. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay right now, socially, academically, emotionally. And I would be lying to you if I told you that none of us as professionals know exactly what that's going to look like once we're out of this pandemic time. However, there are ways to make up so it's not a 100% regression, and it's just like a little bit of a percentage. And meal times are a great time to practice being social in this age group. That's the time to sit down with them. Maybe you can't do all 3 meals. I don't want you to be overachiever parent. Nobody needs to be overachiever parent at this time while we're in the midst of a global pandemic. But I do want you to be conscious of, if they have a sibling, when you serve them lunch and then you go back to do your work, are they talking to one another? Are they cracking up? Are they talking so much that they're not eating? That's not a bad thing. That's for you. You can still set the boundary. Guys, it's lunchtime. Have a conversation, but also take some bites. You could definitely say that, but also for your parent heart, I want you to stop and think, okay, they're being social right now with their sibling. If they're only children, if you can sit with them, maybe in the breakfast meal and maybe in the dinner meal, you can be social with them. You can, and make sure that it's a circle, not a one-sided conversation where they're just talking at you or whether you're talking at them, right? So again, in the routine, you can take care of this social stressor that a lot of you guys have been thinking about as it pertains to this particular age group, right? And after you think about the routine, I want you to think about that the children in this age group, and if you didn't see it, I did a Facebook Live with a pediatric psychiatrist that I love and trust here in Miami, but we talked at the end. She gave this information. I said to her, what didn't I ask you about that you think it's important? And, here's a medical doctor that loves brains just as much as I do. And she was like, exercise. Right? But again, I live in the real world. My space is called Stop Parenting Alone, not I Fix Your Child. I worry about you, right? But in the routine, school, meals, play outside, play inside. And play outside, sometimes you guys think exercise and you think so big, right? You're like, where? I have to find him a soccer space that's using masks and following all the rules, and after school activities. And no, we're in a global pandemic, right? If you're lucky enough to be in a space where your city is not, with higher numbers, like our city is here in Miami-Dade, sure. And after school activity where they're being active can be a great choice. But if you happen to be in Miami-Dade or in another city where where the positivity rate is a little high, Children 8 and up can go on their bike and go around the block. They can, as long as you show them how to do it safely once, right? Children from 5 to 7 can just go in the backyard and you can sit down with an iced tea and play Simon Says with them, right? And, or you could play green light, red light. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Or you could just go out and yeah, walk around the block, right? Or you could just say to them, no, no more screen, just go outside and sweat. Nicole Santamaria, who's an occupational therapist, she always says to me, you know, children need to sweat every day, right? So for some of you who are still working, even if they're outside kicking rocks, upset at you, telling you how mean you are to them, they're outside, they're walking, they're kicking a rock, they are forced to be out there, right? If you are in a building, you do have to have a little more planning than those of you in a house. But outside play, inside play. Now inside play, I'm gonna deal with the screens. I have been dealing with the screens since I started these free Zooms back in April. All of you are really worried about them. And I did another Facebook Live with a pediatrician that I met because I did a webinar for a marvelous company that decided to bring us professionals to come talk to their employees. Yeah, give your HR company a call. And I talked to her, and that's also in the blog if you want to watch it. It's an hour long. It's really good information. She's a pediatrician. She is a spokesperson for the AAP. And we talked about screens, and I said to her, listen, you know, back in the day, you guys were very strict. You were like 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. And, you know, why are the pediatricians and the neurologists saying 2 hours of screen time? Because we now have a lot of research that states that that's what's best for, you know, young children under 10. Right? But then I said to her, but yeah, so what's going on in the pandemic, pediatrician? And she agreed with what I've been telling all of you. So the screen has to be like a plate of food, right? And you have to think about, is there variety in the use of their screen, right? So a screen is currently split up into school. We don't count those hours. They have to do those hours. It's just, you know, what is happening at this time, right? It's social, because a lot of children in this age group, especially those that are 9, 10, the 11 to 12-year-olds, the tweens, I'm going to be talking about that age group next week. They're meeting in the virtual world. They're meeting and playing Roblox. They're meeting and playing Minecraft. And, you know, I like to call it the virtual park. You know, they're meeting at this virtual park. Some of them are playing Animal Crossing. By the way, if you don't know these video games, these are nice video games. They're better than the Fortnites. The Fortnites of the world are very addictive. If your child is already playing it, that's okay. I'll tell you the next. Don't get ahead of me. So Roblox is a great, you know, a great kind of innocuous video game that they can meet friends there. Minecraft is virtual Legos. Like you could build things with Minecraft that you would imagine with Legos, but you can't do it with Legos. And Animal Crossing is super sweet because they, you know, they create a world, you know, they learn about commerce, and they learn how to, you know, how to make a land and how to make their place. And again, it's a place where children are meeting virtually to be online. So again, when we're looking at the screen and when we're looking at the time that they're spending with it, I want you guys to think about the variety. School, social through games, or social through FaceTime, because under 10, they don't do FaceTime. That's well, some do. Some that are very social do FaceTime well, but make sure that they're doing a little bit of that. Then video game playing alone, and then entertainment, which is TV and movies. And that's pretty passive. And there is really no research that says that that television eats their brain. It doesn't. It's a myth. And what you have to be mindful of is, what are they watching on the TV show? You know, are they watching, you know, a kid on YouTube playing with toys that they bought, which is just a, hour-long commercial? Or are they watching Ninjago and My Little Pony, which brings up themes of good and evil and morality and friendship? And notice how I have one that I like more than the other. Yeah. So be mindful of, what are they watching to be entertained? And then it's you won't feel so bad. And again, include the screen time in your routine. Nobody under 10 years old can manage their own pleasure. I will repeat that so that you can write it down. Nobody under 10 years old can manage their own pleasure. When they're in the midst of pleasure, they have a very hard time stopping said pleasure, because all of them, just like when they were learning to speak and talk when they were toddlers, they are learning how to delay gratification, right? So being able to stop pleasure, right? They are building their impulse control, of which in this age group, they maintain their impulses 40% of the time, only 40% of the time, right? And they are learning to tolerate frustration. Frustration tolerance is one of the most important developmental markers of this age group. We want them to succeed at this. And frustration tolerance, the definition of frustration tolerance is being able to tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term gain. I don't know if you've noticed, but your little people have a really hard time thinking about the long term, right? And why is that? Because that's another executive functioning skill, which is the ability to future plan. For sure, children 7 and younger do not future plan. They are the ultimate mindful folks. Right? All of us are paying, apps to make us mindful again when we used to do it naturally when we were under 7. But they can't plan in the future. So all they're feeling is the frustration of the present. So back to this idea of them fighting you with routine and them fighting you with the screen and them, being black and white thinking. Why are they doing it? Because they have a hard time imagining that feeling is going to pass. Some of you never developed this skill as well. This is a skill that a lot of people don't develop well, the skill of frustration tolerance. But it will make or break you in high school. It will make or break you in college. It will make or break you in romantic relationship, right? The ability to tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term results. Now, as adults, we know how to do this. With this age group, this is why all of you are pulling your hairs out. You are telling somebody that doesn't believe you that if they sit with the frustration of doing the math problem again, of brushing their teeth, of eating a meal, that long-term they will be healthy, that long-term they will be mathematicians, and that long-term they won't get cavities. They can't hold that in mind. And that's why you find yourself constantly reminding them why they have to brush their teeth, why they have to sleep, why they have to eat. And again, I want you to think and remember when you're in the midst of that and you yourself can't tolerate your own frustration, right? That in the short term, you have to tolerate the conflict that you feel with them, the rejection of your boundary that you feel for them, for that long term, when they're 11, 12, 13, 14, understanding that like, okay, I know, Mom. I'm going to keep studying the math. I just need a minute to like drink water. That's what it looks like at 13, right? But right now, they really truly believe that the only way that they can get rid of that frustration, that they can get rid of that disappointment, that they can get rid of that sadness is to stay in pleasure. That's why they're fighting you. So what does that look like on Monday afternoon, Lina? Okay. And by the way, knowing this takes care of all of these stressors. They go, no, I don't want to do it already. You're so frustration, right? And then you say to them, because you're going to talk to this black and white mind, right? Yes, you're right. It is frustrating. You were on the screen doing school most of the day, and now you have to do another 30 minutes on IXL. You're right. But let's both breathe. Let's both calm down. I'm going to turn on the timer and do what you can. And then you're going to walk away. And if they're there and they're like, oh, and if they only get one IXL problem done, or they only do one of the readings, or they only answer 4 of the 5 questions that the kindergarten, first grade, or second grade teacher gave you within those 30 minutes, that's what you're going to turn in. Yep. You know why? Because that homework and that extra work is an assessment. And right now in the second week of school, the assessment is that they are still building the emotional muscle to get through those extra 30 minutes in the evening, right? And all they could answer is 2 problems. But Lina, then the teacher writes me and tells me that the problem was incomplete. Yes, let me drink some water to say this. Ready? Because I'm going to say something powerful. Here goes. You're going to type the teacher. And you're going to say, hello, Mrs. Hernandez. Thank you so much. Yes, Charlie only answered 2 questions out of the 8 that you sent. I have put into the routine 30 minutes of homework. And and when we're done with the 30 minutes, I put the work away and we turn it in. Currently, that is his assessment. So if you find that he needs an incomplete, I am okay with that. I am looking forward to him being able to finish everything by the time November comes. This is especially true for kindergarten, first and second grade. That work is an assessment. Your child is currently managing their emotions to be able to do the academics. And now I'm going to pierce your hearts. And I'm really, really sorry, but I need to. There's not a college in the United States or the world that looks at your child's elementary school transcript. There's not a college or school in the United States or abroad that looks at your child's elementary school transcript. Next year, we are all going to know that we were in a global pandemic. Schools will take that into account. And any school that rejects your child because of what they did in kindergarten, first and second grade, you got to wonder why. Okay, so finding schools and finding colleges is like finding mates. We must make sure that it's a mutual attraction. Okay, now that's the number 1 rule, especially for children in kinder, first and second grade, and it goes back to routine, right? So school, meals, play outside, play inside. When we play inside with the screens, we make sure that they have variety. And then we put in that homework time. Type your teacher and say, hi, based on your expertise, how long should it take my child to do homework? Oh, no longer than 45 minutes. Great, thank you. You're gonna set a timer. You're gonna tell them, okay, baby, it's time to do homework. They're gonna fight you, they're gonna cry, that's okay. When the 45 minutes are up, it's okay. We turn in whatever they didn't do, and you just repeat and remind, repeat and remind, repeat and remind, because the most important muscle that you're building at homework time, especially for K1-2, is the habit of sitting, tolerating the frustration of having to do something with discomfort in the short term so I can have the long-term result of, being able to finish my homework and being successful, right? That, my friends, is your parenting duty. Math, English, social studies, science, letters, colors. That's your teacher's duty, unless you're homeschooling. Now you're also the parent and the teacher, right? So split that up. And finally, because I've given you a lot of information, stressors. Everybody's really worried about the kids. I've said this in every single one of these free Zoom calls, but it bears repeating. If I could buy billboards all over the United States, if I had enough money to buy billboards all over the United States, if you know a rich person that wants to buy billboards, let me know. I would write this on the billboard. This is not traumatic for children. This time is a hardship for your child. Your child is learning in a masterful way with what is happening around you, how to manage a hardship. And what we know in the world of attachment and in the world of trauma and in child development is that when a child goes through hardship, those who fare well, those who attain, you know, like a year ago, this was the word, right? With the mindset book, right? Grit. Those who are resilient, right? You've heard of these terms, grit, resilient. Okay, you can't talk a person into building grit and resiliency. That is learned by experiences, because this organ right here, this beautiful brain of ours, is experience dependent. So this time of hardship, your child is tolerating frustration, managing uncertainty. But these children that live through these hardships, what we know, those that have grit, those that have resilience, those that fare well, have one loving, consistent adult. I said this to a parent in a parenting consult yesterday, and this parent, I love this parent, they were so smart. They were like, but what is a loving, consistent adult, Lina? Because I don't know if I am being loving and consistent. Okay. If you're constantly screaming, if you're constantly using this term, you are lazy, you are, if you're constantly just pointing out the negative, that's not very loving, right? But if you scream 4 times a week because you have lost your mind, and then you go back to your child later and you say, you know what, I didn't breathe, I didn't calm my frustration down, I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. If you are trying to maintain a routine, but then your child pushes back at you and you take a deep breath and you stomp away, that's you being human. But if you come back and you make up for it, you are. And if you talk stern, but you, in your talking stern, you say, guys, I'm having a really hard time. We all need to take deep breaths and calm it down. That's being loving. If you are maintaining a routine, a consistent routine that is predictable, that is being loving. If you are parenting with other people, with a extended family member or parent number 2, and you guys are on the same page and everybody's setting the same rules and the same information, that is being loving. Giving them the screen because they threw themselves to the ground and they're crying and you just want them to be happy, that's not loving, that's permissive. So managing your stressors is incredibly important, because if you are very much stressed out, then you cannot respond with, you know what, that I made a mistake, I wasn't going to do that, right? So every like at the 10-minute mark of the hour, I want you to stop for the next 5 weeks. You know why? Because it's going to take 5 weeks for most of these kiddos to get used to transition back into the school. And if somewhere within those 5 weeks we go back to in-person, changing from virtual, you're going to have another transitional week. Okay? And this school year is chock full of back and forth, right? But self-care is not about, self-care is about understanding our distorted thoughts. Self-care is about understanding that every hour we have an opportunity to find our feet, change our posture, and breathe. And self-care, when you have children, especially children under 10, is about allowing every single person in the family to reset. What is reset? When you're in the middle of the enough to go, okay, I'm sorry, let's start over. Teach your children how to start over. This age group especially needs it because they make a lot of mistakes. All right. Now I'm going to stop. I am going to listen to you guys. It's your turn. So remember, you can ask me a question in the Q&A. Type it in. You can choose to ask your question anonymously. You can type a question in the chat, or you can raise your hand. So right now, I am allowing everybody to speak so that you can touch the bottom of your screen if you're on a phone, or touch the participants icon if you're on your computer to go ahead and raise your hand and ask me your question. And I think I made all of you think really hard because nobody is asking a question. Or maybe I answered all the questions. Any takers? Oh, here's a question in the Q&A. Beautiful. The question is, how do I support or help overcome a fear? Okay, so in this age group, is back to this idea of that your children are in a developmental marker that is black and white thinking. And black and white thinking keeps a child in something that the brain does automatically. So there are certain things that our brain does automatically. When somebody hits us underneath our knee, our leg goes floop, right? And when somebody blows air in our eyes, we blink, right? And if we see another person get hurt, our brain immediately makes us feel that physical pain, so we go cringe. And the other thing that we have automatically is something called the negative bias. So every single person on earth makes lists of what can possibly go wrong on a regular. And the only way to think about the gratitude or the positive is to actively build that muscle. Now, children in this age group are very black and white. So right now, a lot of brains, including our own, are telling us that we're in danger because there's this virus out in the world, and that's why we've been home. So the most important thing that you have to do when a child is scared is not to say, no, it's okay, you're safe. Why are you thinking about this? No. The most loving thing that you can do is to mirror that emotion. So it's called mirroring because it's like putting up a mirror so they see that you see them, right? It's like you reflect back to them what you heard them say. So your child tells you, I don't want to go to sleep, it's dark and somebody's gonna break into our house. Yes, baby, it is really dark in the house and you're really, really scared. So I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to be here until you fall asleep. But remember, we have an alarm. Mommy and daddy are here. And right now we're safe. But yes, your brain and your body is telling you that you're not safe. But I'm just reminding you that you are. So let's just breathe it through. Right? You should be happy. No, of course. Or I don't want to go back to school because then I'm gonna get sick, or you're gonna sick and everybody's gonna die. Yes, baby, it's true. There is a virus out there. And it is scary to think about, somebody getting sick, especially somebody you love. Mirror. Truth. Now they could be like, okay, you heard me. And now you can say, but remember what we're doing to stay safe. We're wearing masks, we're washing our hands, and so on and so on and so on. So when somebody is afraid, your goal cannot mean that they're not afraid anymore. Your goal needs to be that you are naming what they're afraid of and you're telling them whether their fear is correct, right? And if it is correct, what are we doing to stay safe? Kind of like with the virus. And if it's not correct, letting them know, hey, your brain is tricking you. And then with young children, you have to repeat and remind for this thing. Okay, so let me go to the chat box because there's some things. Thank you. That's super helpful, Lina. Thank you very much. How do we support children to be emotionally stronger? By allowing them to share their emotions. So sometimes that question, by building their emotional intelligence, right? So the worst thing you can do is expect your child not to feel sad, not to feel angry, not to feel disappointed. The worst thing you can do is expect your child not to be angry when you tell them to get off the screen. Remember what I said. They cannot stop. They're learning, just like they were learning to walk, how to stop their pleasure. So it is important when they're frustrated, if you told them, okay, time to get off the screen, and they hand it to you and they're like, oh, if they handed you the screen and now they're just frustrated, that's not them being weak or disrespectful. That's just them having a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old emotional response to your boundary that took away their pleasure. So and sadness is not weak either. If they cry because they lost at a board game, that doesn't mean that they're not emotionally strong. That just means that they're having the emotional response of losing a game, and it's immature because they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, I don't know, a lot of you have 5 to 8-year-olds. They are incredibly pained when they lose at a board game, right? So in that moment, it's not that they're not emotionally strong. In that moment, it's an opportunity to let them know, to pull them out of the black and white thinking that since I lost this board game, it means I am a loser forever, because that's literally what they're thinking. In that moment, you're teaching them how to manage loss. You're teaching them how to manage failure. So if you say to them, well, I can't play board games with you if you're going to act like this, you're not teaching them how to manage a loss. So then they just feel judged and threatened because now they can't play board games with their favorite person. So in every opportunity where they present an emotion, we have to tell them, yes, you're angry. Yes, you're disappointed. Yes, you're frustrated. Oh, wow, you're so happy that you're getting super silly and then you can't control your body. So this age group is a big time to teach them how to deal with emotions in a social setting. If I say this and it confuses you, there is a high possibility that there are emotions that you yourself as an adult do not know how to manage. And you don't know what to do with frustration. So how can I possibly tell my child, what you've done is turned off frustration. You don't know how to handle anger. So what you've done is avoided conflict most of your adult life. And if that's the case, that's why I have a center called Stop. That's why I have a program called Stop Parenting Alone. It's not called I Fix Your Child, because a lot of the times the things that your child is doing is because you yourself can't emotionally, especially you yourself don't know how to manage that emotion. And if that's the case, begin to wonder, how can I handle my anger? How can I handle my frustration? How can I handle conflict in a healthy way instead of avoiding it? So I went a little deep, but it's a lot. You're welcome. So how to deal with sleeping alone or afraid of dogs? Same way. Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're afraid of the dog because you think the dog is going to bite you. But this is how we say hi to a dog. And then you expose, expose, expose. And with sleeping, when a child is afraid of sleeping, add 10 minutes to your routine. Turn off all the lights in the room, or make the room look like what it looks like when they're sleeping, and walk around the room with them for like 3 weeks, and they can show you what's scary to them, so that you can verify and correct what they're afraid of. So, and with the dog, we tell them, we say, yes, it's true. The doggy is barking and it's very, very loud and you're afraid that it's going to bite you. But this is how we say hi to a dog. right? And then if they hide behind you, that's okay. You do it. You let the dog smell your hand. You know, fear of a dog is not a bad thing. Like, you know, that's self-preservation. So that's pretty good. Okay, we are working on our routine. How important is it that everything is always the same sequentially? Or is it okay if sometimes they brush teeth before they get dressed, for example? This is different for the age. So the pattern, teeth, dress, eating, it is really good for kindergarten and younger. You know, the younger they are, the more rigid you have to be with the routine. For the older kids, you can say, all right, guy, it's morning routine time. So if they decide to brush their teeth and then get dressed, or get dressed and then brush their teeth, as long as they've done it, we're good, right? And, you know, the rule in the school age years is that the moment that they can do it on their own, we let them, right? So for a lot of you are still holding the hand of an 8-year-old. You know, like an 8-year-old can wash their own dishes. They may not do a great job. They may leave a little crud on the fork, but if they can reach the sink and they can reach the soap, they can do it. So you know, keep adding a little bit at a time. And yes, with children 8 and older, you could be a little more flexible, but you have to tell them what is expected in that morning routine, what is expected in that after school routine, and be as concrete and specific as possible. Okay. How can I make my daughter express more her feelings? She is 7. Unfortunately, we can't make anybody express their feelings. But I do want when you see a child and they're upset, especially a child that's 7, 6, or 5, just name it. Oh, you're so frustrated. And some of these little children that are having a hard time feeling that feeling, because it's awful. Frustration is an awful emotion. They're not dumb. They're trying not to feel awful. So they push that emotion away, and that's when they're pushing you away, right? Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it because if I talk about it, I feel it more. It's kind of like when something happens to you, and your best friend looks at you and they're like, oh, I know this is so hard, and you're like, no, I don't want to cry, I don't want to cry. That's what your child is doing sometimes. So in those moments when they're like, no, stop, mommy, stop, you say, okay, I see you're frustrated, but we could talk about it later. Or if they're going like this, buy yourself some feeling cards, and you know, let them like pull out a card, and maybe they can show you. You know, sometimes children, just especially young children, especially 5, 6, 7, sometimes they have to show you with a card, or they have to draw it for you, or they can write you a letter, right? But and then everyone, and this is really important to do it. This is really important to do it for all children, but in particular children under 8. Get into the habit of either at dinner time, or you know, at bedtime, to say, let's talk about our day. And let me tell you, so my worst part of the day was when my boss like came in on the Zoom meeting and I wasn't ready for them, or, you know, my best part of the day, and if you could do that at the dinner table, that'd be great. And then say, what was your worst part and what was your best part? And let's pretend that they're like, no, I don't have anything today. Leave them alone. Because see, if every single day they know that you're going to talk about the worst part, the best part, and what they're grateful for, on those days when they have a really hard day, they know that you're going to ask them that question, and they wait for it. Because one of the scariest things to do as a human being, no matter how old you are, is to share your vulnerability. And a lot of you are like, why would you say that, Lina? But I'm their parent. They should be able to say anything to me. No, because we're human and we're careful with our vulnerable emotion. So sometimes this age group gets really difficult, because this is when they start getting complicated, just like you. So set up a time when you always talk about the best part, the worst part, what are you grateful for, and everybody shares. And then on those days where they have a really hard time, they may talk more. I took a long time on this question because it's an important one. So that's a good thing. Thank you, Miss Stacy. I send you hugs and kisses too. Okay, let me go to the chat area because people have posted in the chat. Okay, the chat. Hi, thanks so much for these webinars. I'm watching from Brooklyn. Woohoo, Brooklyn, New York. My daughter attended school in Miami, but this will be her first time going to school here. School starts on the 21st. She told me she doesn't want to go to this school. She only wants to go to school in Miami and be with her friends. She is 4.5. Oh, baby girl, and entering pre-K. How do I get her to warm up to going to her new school? And what do I do if she physically refuses to go? Thanks so much. Okay. Hello, Brooklyn in the house. Okay. Your goal cannot be that she's okay with going to this new uncertain space happy. 1. So I'm going to change your goal. Your goal is to say, your goal is to say to her, yes. She's 4.5, so we have to keep it simple. And you snuck into the 5 to 10-year-old, but I'll answer your question anyway. Yes, baby, it is hard. You're going to be with brand new kids and you can't imagine what it's going to be like. And that's what you're thinking. But right now, you're just thinking about the bad things that may happen. And that's normal. Remember? Negative bias of the brain. Negative bias of the brain. So, but let's think about what can go well. Well, maybe you'll like your teacher. Maybe you'll make 2 new friends. And maybe it will be a little bit like Miami, but not exactly like Miami because it's another place. So it's about saying yes to her emotional being and also what it could be like. Also, when you drop her off and she refuses to go in, you give her 2 hugs, 2 kisses, and you hand her to the preschool teacher, screaming bloody murder. What? Yes. Why? Because when you keep your child, when you hold them, when you meander, when you don't say goodbye quickly to a young child, 5 and younger, you are telling them, I am the only one that can soothe you, and that teacher's not safe. When you hug them 2 times, when you kiss them 2 times, you allow them to tolerate sadness, to build, going back to the previous question, to build an ability to manage emotion. And you let her know this person is safe and they will take care of you. And this is why choosing a school and choosing those teachers are very important. Oh, Stacy, sorry. Okay, I'll go to the next question. And yay, thank you for calling from Brooklyn. Okay, how can we best praise for a job well done? Good behavior. Oh, yes, thank you for asking me that question. Do not say, you're so smart. You're so creative. You're so awesome. Black and white thinking, concrete brain. Remember that if they are awesome about one thing, but then they mess up the next day, now they're not awesome anymore. So the best way to tell a child that they've done a job well done is to describe what they did with values, emotions, and detail, like a sportscaster. So for example, your child is sitting, they just finished virtual learning and they had lunch and then they sat right back down to do their homework. And you walk in and you're like, holy Lord, that's awesome. I want him to do that again, right? So you go up to your child and you say, wow, buddy, you know what I watched you do? I watched you go to school for like 5 hours and you were very patient and you followed the direction of the teacher, and I watched you, take your time, and then you had lunch and you made your own sandwich and you did it just like we talked about that you would do. You were being careful, you were being responsible, and you were being super independent. And now look at the choice that you made. I'm watching that even though it's a lot of work, and even though you may be feeling a little bit disappointed, you started your homework right away. Wow, high five. Do you feel proud of yourself? Right? So why do I want you to give praise like that rather than you are so smart, you are so pretty? Because you're telling them how to repeat it. And this also goes for when they make a mistake, right? So when they make a mistake, I want a parent to say, okay, you didn't breathe, you didn't walk away, and you ended up screaming at your sister. And she got very sad and very hurt. So next time, when you're very frustrated, remember that, so same thing, either for praise or either for, talking to them about a mistake that they made. Describe and be like a newscaster. Okay, so nobody is raising their hand, right? Nobody wants to actually talk to me. I'll continue reading, and we have 10 minutes left, so let me get to this. So how do you identify when a fear is real or manipulation, such as saying he's afraid to delay bedtime? Don't. And there is a blog that I wrote. I'll do it for all of you. So go, follow, if you don't follow me there already, follow the Stop Parenting Alone Facebook page, and I'll post it again later in the day because I want you to read it. I wrote a blog before the pandemic that I keep bringing up, which is, a mistake that you make as a parent is that you wonder if the emotional response is appropriate for what's happening. And I want everybody to get off the debate committee of whether or not the emotion that your child is showing is appropriate for what is happening. The minute you stop doing that, your life will change. Because all of you think that you have to parent emotion. No, you don't have to parent emotion. You have to parent how they're managing said emotion. Again, if you tell your child, all right, no more TV, turn it off and go brush your teeth because it's time for bed. And they're like, oh, click. And they're, oh, all the way to the bathroom brushing their teeth. Your parenting is them turning it off and them going to brush their teeth. The emotional response, the frustration and the annoyance is not for you to parent. Because see, as they get older, that loud is going to become, you are all rolling your eyes at some of the things that I'm saying right now. You're adults. Or maybe you actually said it loud. Or maybe you hit your steering wheel when nobody's watching. We all still do big emotion. We just, as you get older, it should get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and more inside of us. So if your child tells you, but I'm scared, and you imagine that they're delaying bedtime, name and claim it, right? You could say, wow, you know what? I'm thinking that you're telling me that you're scared, and my head is telling me that you're telling me that you're scared because you know that I love you and that I'm going to walk around the house and make sure that you're safe. Are you really scared right now? Yes. Okay, so let's walk around the house. But name and claim it. If you think that they're using emotions because you have become like a really responsive parent to emotions and they're using it to stall, name and claim it. I think you're telling me that you're sad because you want me to stop right now. My head is telling me, and I didn't make that up. That's a Brené Brown thing. And if you don't know Brené Brown, please go right now, watch her TED Talk. With the brown shirt, the TED Talk where she's wearing a brown shirt. Brené Brown, B-R-E-N-E, Brown. But she talks a lot about saying my head is telling me, or my head is telling me a story. And that is, and when you say that, the other person doesn't have to defend themselves. A lot of the time in this age group, they're defending against being embarrassed, against feeling guilty, or against feeling scared. So name and claim it if they use it. Okay. And then, okay. So Michelle asked 2 questions and they're kind of the same. Should I distract the feeling of fear, like talking about something else? Never. Distraction ended for you as a parent and for you as a tool when you had something and you remember when they were babies and you had something and you put it behind your back and they forgot about it? The minute they started looking behind your back, distraction can no longer be a parenting tool. Okay, so with fear, we just name it. And fear is an important emotion, right? It sounds like your little person leans on anxious, right? Like that they feel scared a lot of the time, and that's something to pay attention to, right? And I'm sure that the pandemic time has only amplified something that was already there, right? So if you distract from fear, you teach a child to avoid, which only increments the anxiety, because if we're constantly trying not to feel afraid, then we're anxious of fear. And like I said before, feelings are reflexes. So it is important to not distract a child from fear. It's to name it. Yes, you're very scared for the dog, but we're going to walk by the dog and I can hold your hand and let her scream and holler, no, mommy, stop. You're not hurting her because the dog won't hurt her. And you have to manage your own emotional response to her fear. And if you both lean on anxious, that could be hard too. So if that's the case, sometimes when a parent is also anxious, those are opportunities to seek outside assistance so somebody else can help both of you manage fear and anxious responses. And how can I help my daughter to have more self-confidence? Self-confidence cannot be given with words. Self-confidence and self-esteem is experience dependent, meaning that the very specific praise and saying, hey, well done, is one way for them to understand that you see what they're doing and you see how hard it is. And self-confidence, it sounds like your child leans on anxious and like the world scares her a little bit. And I want you to check your parent gut. I respect parent gut so much. Sometimes you guys tell me things and I keep prying and prying, and then we come up with a solution together. But it's exposing them slowly with your safety to the thing that they're afraid of that is actually safe. And by the way, dogs are not 100% safe, so that one I'm not worried about. But the dark, it is safe. And so it is important to slowly and gently expose her to what she's afraid of, and then she'll experience that. It's the shadow in the corner. Okay, let's go walk to the shadow in the corner. If she's hiding behind you going, no, mommy, no, you say, it's okay, I got you. But don't say, stop, no, you're fine. No, it's okay, I got you. It's okay, I'm gonna check what's in the corner. Okay, look. And then you turn on your phone light, and then you show, oh yes, that chair in the corner makes a really kind of creepy shadow. So exposure, experiences, that's what creates confidence. That's what creates self-esteem. Repetitive esteemable moments, repetitive moments where she has walked through fear, and time with you lovingly responding, yes, that is scary. So let me finish off by telling you about how to get more of me. So I do this exact thing. This is what a parenting consultation feels like. However, I'm only talking about you. I'm only talking about you and your family. I'm only talking about you and your child. And I do that for an hour and a half. And what you will end up with is the why of the behavior of your child, the solution, and the plan. And when you do that with me, it's $300. I'm with you for an hour and a half, and usually most parents come out happy. The other amazing service that I have, which I think is a deal, is $49.99 a month. and it's online parenting support. And I do this. I answer questions live on a Zoom. I've been doing Zoom since 2016. And on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, I come on and I answer 6 people's questions, and I take 10 minutes on each question. There's a private Facebook group that people can go in there at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, oh my God, my child did this. And when I wake up at 6 in the morning, somewhere within the 24 hours, I will answer your question that you posted. So it's like having me in your back pocket 24/7, except for Sunday. I don't do that on Sunday. And that's $49.99. And that's a way to get in touch with me. Or you can follow me on the social world. And I put tons of information out in the social world today. Like I promised all of you, I will post that blog that I wrote about children and not, questioning their emotions or debating whether what they're feeling is appropriate to the circumstance. I will post that blog on the Facebook page of Stop Parenting Alone. So if you don't already follow me in the social world, go ahead and be social with me there. That's it for today. We ran out of time. Thank you for being on. Check the events page in the website. And you can see when I am going to do this free parent Zoom for your age group next month. Until then, bye everybody. Thank you. And thank you for being on. I know some of you are, one of you was in Brooklyn, and I know another of you is in our nation's capital. So I love being able to, that is a blessing from this virtual time. Until next time.